Welcome, and thank you for having interest in the work that we do here at Ohio State University. This webinar, like other webinars that we have conducted, will go over one portion of the 2018 Farm Bill and the decisions that lay ahead for producers and landowners as we work through the following years. Today, this webinar will specifically cover the price loss coverage yield update, which is a decision afforded to the owner of the land on whether they would like to update their yield based on historical planting and yields, or whether they want to keep their yield that's on record with the local farm service agency. To get started, if you open up any internet web browser, in this case I've got our CFAS web page here, but if you go up and you plug in go.osu.edu/farmbill2019, again that's go.osu.edu/farmbill2019, it will take you to the Ohio State University Farm Bill page. Now we've got several things on this page, a welcome video that will walk you through everything that we have available to you related to the programs, a couple of dedications to our partner institutions, and then some contact information. So if you have any additional questions, don't hesitate to reach out. For today's purposes, I'm going to select on ARC County and PLC Decision Tool. This takes us to our decisions page where the first logo you see is Ohio State University. If you click on our logo, it brings up our decision tool, but we also have a couple of webinars to help you walk through how to use the tools and how they work. But some of our partner institutions like the University of Illinois and the Farm Doc team also has a tool, Kansas State University along with Oklahoma State University, and then the Agriculture and Food Policy Center at Texas A&M, and then the Food Policy and Ag Research Institute at the University of Missouri also has a tool as well. So for today's purposes, we're going to click on our Ohio State logo, and that pulls up our Excel-based OSU tool. As the Excel tool is pulling up, I'm going to go ahead and switch our screen over. That way we make sure we're all looking at the same thing. And what you see when you pull up the Excel version is the first thing you need to do is you need to enable content. This is a bar located at the very top. It's located in yellow. You're going to click enable content. If you don't have a bar, don't worry. Your content is already enabled, but we just want to make sure that the formulas and the functions are working properly. We have a welcome message thanking you for coming to our site. And we're just going to encourage you to click here to begin. That's going to take you to our directions page. This page has lots of information. To start off, the yellow bar up here at the top represents our legal disclaimer, basically just saying that the decisions are those of the producer or the user of this tool and not those of Ohio State University. This is really just to say that we're providing you with the best information that we have to help you make the most informed decision you can, but the decision is ultimately yours, and Ohio State University cannot be responsible. However, if you have other questions about the different topics, you can click these tabs down here at the bottom. For instance, if you want to click PLC Yield Update, it takes you down to a description about how the yield update works, the calculations and the formulas behind it, a little bit of instruction about our tool and what you need to do to use it. And then after you're done with that, you can click back to the top and it brings you up to the top of the web page. There's also information related to the other tools available in this worksheet. Again, in a different webinar, we covered how to use the corn, soybean, and wheat decision tools between the Agricultural Risk Coverage Program and the Price Loss Coverage Program. However, for this webinar, we're just going to go ahead and click on the PLC Yield Update tool. And this takes you to our landing page for the PLC Yield Update. This one's pretty straightforward from the standpoint that first and foremost, we just ask that you pick your state. We've got several states listed. We're going to just go ahead and click Ohio. And also, that's the state that is the state that it defaults to. We're going to select a random county. So I'm going to select, for this case, Clark County. We're going to select Ohio Clark, and then we need to select a commodity. And so we're just going to start with corn. All the other commodities are listed in here if you want to look at what a yield update for your respective commodity looks like, but we're going to select corn. So this is the first thing you need to do. You need to pick a state, a county, and a commodity. If you want to go back, you can hit this reset button and it automatically defaults back to Allen County corn. So just a reminder that you're going to need to change your county if you hit reset again. So we're going to go back to Clark County. We're going to pick corn again just to start with. So that's the first step. The second step is you need to come down here, and we have a series of yes/no questions in this did you plant corn during the respective marketing year. It's important that you answer these, and all you do is click on this select. So in our case, I'm just going to assume that we have a strict corn and soybean rotation to where we plant corn every other year and soybeans in the off year. So for 2013, we're going to say yes. For 2014, we're going to say no. For 2015, we're going to say yes. For 2016, we're going to say no. And for 2017, we're going to say yes as well. Okay, now you'll notice that one thing happened. We unlocked some yields down here at the bottom. In years where we didn't plant corn, the X remains. We have no yield down here in the bottom. This is because we're taking a 5-year average yield, or an average over 5 years, only in years where we actually planted the commodity on our acreage, right? So if I was to go back and say, yes, we did plant corn in 2014, I would select yes. The X would go away and we'd see a plug yield come down here to the bottom. So I'm gonna go back and select that to no again. Now the reason I say plug yields is because the formula calculation, again, you can read about the calculation on the directions tab, but the formula calculation replaces any year when the planted yield, or the yield for planted acres, is well below the county average, or in years where you don't have verifiable records. Now for most producers, verifiable records mean crop insurance records. You have to have records that are verifiable for your FSA office, and so if you do not have verifiable records, but you did plant corn that year, you automatically just get this county plug yield. Now this county plug yield is represented up here where it says 140 bushels to the acre. This is representative of 75% of the county's transition yield. Depending on the county you select up here at the top, this yield could be different and will be different, and so we've plugged those in here below. So that's the second step. You just got to answer yes, no here, and whether you planted a crop or whether you did not. Now the third step is if you have verifiable farm records, and again, for most people, those are going to be crop insurance yields. You can go in and plug years that you have verifiable farm records into the system. You'll notice that it replaces those down here in our actual yields because our farm yield here, 156, was above our substitute yield of 140. Let's say in 2015, though, we had a verifiable farm record of 134. You notice that 140 stays here because 140 is higher than that 134, and we're replacing that low yielding year. So I'm going to keep that in here, and we're just going to put 160 in here for our last year of 2017. Again, I'm just making random yields here. But the way the formula calculation works is we're going to add up all these years where we planted corn, or that we had corn acres available to us. We planted corn. We're going to average these 3 years together, and we're going to take it times 90%. Now that 90% is just what's written into the formula calculation by law, but that calculation comes out to 137 bushels per acre, okay? The next thing we're going to do is that the yield update requires some adjustment to compare 2013 through 2017 years, which again are the years that we're interested in, some ratio that compares those yields to yields during the 2008 to 2012 time period. Now these yields are based on the national average yields, and so no matter where you're at in the country, it's going to be the same yield ratio depending on the commodity. So for corn, we've got a 0.9 yield ratio here that we apply. For wheat, it'll be different, and I'll show you that here in just a second. So you're going to want to make sure that you get your commodity correct in this box. It's also going to make sure that it pulls through the right county substitute yield. If you selected soybeans, you're going to get a much different substitute yield down here. So it's important to start out with your right information at the top. If we move forward with our formula, we're just taking that 90% average of the 5 years times our national adjustment rate, and we get a yield update of 123 bushels per acre, which is represented here in this blue box. Now what that signifies is this is what our yield update would give us in terms of a yield update. As an owner of the land, you do not have to update if you do not want to. The Farm Service Agency should be sending out letters. I don't know exactly when those are going to come out, but the Farm Service Agency should be sending out letters that tell you what your current PLC yield is for your farm. If your PLC yield that you currently have on record is above 123, or whatever is in this blue box, you might consider just not taking the update and leaving your yield the same because you have a higher PLC yield by not doing anything. If this yield update gives you a higher PLC yield, you might want to consider the update just from the fact that depending on what these yields are determines how big of a PLC payment you get. The higher yield results in a higher payment. And so for most producers, we figure that if they are given the chance for a higher yield, that they will take it. Again, this is your decision. You do not have to update if you do not want to. But we encourage you to at least use this tool and see if that a PLC yield update would be beneficial to you. Again, if you have a higher yield on record with your FSA office, you can choose not to update. This can be selected on a commodity by commodity basis. So if you have a higher soybean yield, thanks to the update, you can update your soybean yield, but you do not have to update your corn yield. Same thing for wheat. So let me just show you what happens if we choose a different commodity. Let's say wheat, for instance. You'll notice that, again, we have to go through and select our yes/no questions, put in our plug yield, or put in our yields again. But you'll notice what happened to our national adjustment rate down here. We have a national adjustment rate that says that now, instead of 0.9 for corn, now we're going to take that national rate times, or that average times 0.9545 to make that adjustment. And again, we'll get a PLC yield on the back end here, and I'm just going to select 1 year. That way we can just look and make sure everything's working properly. We're going to pull through that 62 transitional yield as a substitute yield. Let's say we have a yield of 70, for instance, for this county. We're going to take that times 90%. We're going to take that times our national adjustment rate. And our PLC yield update for wheat, in this case, if this was our scenario, would be 60 bushels per acre. Again, you do not have to update if you do not want to. We would just encourage you to use this tool if you have any interest in knowing what the update would mean for your operation. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us at Ohio State University. You can find this tool and our other additional tools plus additional information at go.osu.edu/Farm Bill 2019. Again, that's go.osu.edu/Farm Bill 2019. And thank you for listening. We hope this was useful, and we hope to see you around the state of Ohio soon. Thanks, and have a great day.